Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. Thoughts on it so far? Realistically, I thought that the show was good. If I had to give it like a rating out of a 10, I think I'd give it like a 7, you know. Now, I think that there's a lot of things to cover in 13 minutes and it's hard to take credibility into account when you have as much music as he does and being able to squeeze all that into 13 minutes along with SZA, who I think like almost had the show on her back just as much as him. Picking 13 minutes worth of music is definitely tough, but it makes sense too. So let's cover the beginning, right? I think the snippet of him rapping at the first off the set list that was leaked actually almost 100% accurate. It was kind of scary actually. It was like that snippet of him being in the car, a bar that like I don't think we ever heard of that was like very new, and then it went up to oh, what was the name of the? I already like forget the order of the music, but like 100% like crazy that the set list that was leaked was like very much close to accurate. Because even people were like, "Oh, like you better not play that set list because like it would have been horrendous or whatever." So like I don't know. I went in there with like an open mind, thinking that he was gonna just perform his set, and then it was like a whole different set or like same set. I had no idea. I just kind of took with what it was and just like rolled with it. Now here's my thing. The show's presentation on television way better than what I think that it was at the stadium, and I think that's like usually how it can be perceived. But then again, I don't know, because when I saw Rihanna's performance, it was like a spectacle. I thought it was very very good for that, and then even like the weekends as well, and then the West Coast one show too. Like the whole thing was really like good at like making sure that everybody at the stadium was also like, oh my god, like it's the you know. But this one just seemed very much like television esque based. So I mean, which is fine. 100 million people are watching, you know, from home to some degree. So it's gonna make sense that it's gonna be appealing to them in that specific regard. So totally okay. And then we try to understand why Samuel Jackson, dressed as Uncle Sam, was at the was like there as well. Because I was trying to figure it out on Twitter. They basically said, or X, whatever. They were like, "Oh, there's like a big announcement or a big surprise coming at the halftime show," which I was like, "Ooh, that could be anything. Maybe it's like a third artist. Maybe people thought that it was Taylor Swift singing Bad Blood, which I would have been very shocked by. But that also I think would have stirred like a lot of issues. But it wasn't. I think the announcement was that Samuel Jackson was Uncle Sam in the thing. So, like, I get the theme behind the show. The show's thematic was very, very good and cinematic, and very good at like expressing a story that America is this and it's great and it is what it is at the apex of life and all that other whatever. Like I get that. So it's cool, and the dancers, they're also like shaping up to be like the American flag was also very cool too. Like I thought that was really really cool, but the visual appeal isn't really going to be there if people are like on their phones not really watching the show, because I think you had either one of three kinds of people. You had the people that were just like watching the show, singing the music that was there, which if you're a K-Dot fan, which like I am, I was there singing to the music as well. It was cool. You either had people that were like just recording just to be like, hey, I'm at the Super Bowl, check this out, right? And then boom. And then you have people that were just like on their phones, just like waiting for the show to pass because they wanted to watch more football. And I think that the Chiefs being in like a really bad losing uh like place in the scoreboard was like not helping the situation either. But like, you know, it is what it is at that point, because the game itself was like kind of like after the first half, it was already like so bad. So to think that the Chiefs had like an opportunity to make a comeback just didn't really seem like it was possible. So I think people were very quick to be like, oh yeah, like the game's over. So let's just wait until the halftime show comes in, and the halftime show will save the game, because like the game was very like lame to watch. Even though like congratulations to the Eagles, I wasn't rooting for either team. I just wanted to watch like a good game. That's why I said before. It's like, I don't really have a favorite team or anything like that. I just really like watching a good football game, and to me that game was like not that appealing. So like there's that. But the halftime show I figured would like take that over, and it was very very easy to go online and just see people's reactions of the show, people's perspectives from different camera points as well. Because of course, so many people posted their POVs on the show and like what they thought about it all. And here's kind of what I picked up on. Basically, people, like I said, were either on their phones, just not tuning into the show at all. People were either recording or they were playing the music. For me personally, though, as somebody who was a viewer from home, the stadium was quiet, like relatively so. Like when like the performance starts, every like people were like, "Oh my gosh, Samuel L. Jackson," and then like he started rapping. Like I was trying to, I didn't even, I like listened to what he was singing and rapping about, but I was genuinely trying to listen to the crowd and like I couldn't hear the crowd. So I was like, oh, like the stadium is quiet right now. Like, you know, I figured that it was because of a master of art at hand working on the craft, but then I'm like, no, people probably just don't really care about the show that much. Um, and then they played like that snippet of him like not like us, and people were kind of like, oh, is he gonna do it? And then he said the line of like, oh, like we want to play your favorite song, but then they're gonna sue or something, right? So I think that to me was the first hint of like, oh, they can't play it, but he's still throwing jabs at Drake because like they're gonna sue him if he plays the song, so they weren't gonna play it, and then they played Peekaboo instead, which I enjoyed the little like rotational that part was cool. Uh, and then like son of a gun, man threw the whole song out, well most of it, right? He played the most important part too. And I think that because him getting the segment of the minor during the Grammys was a clear and obvious sign that it's like, oh, we're gonna play this again at the halftime show, and like GG good luck. Because literally the camera is so zoomed in on him, and I saw that picture somewhere because like Kendrick is like walking and he's like, say Drake, and then he biggest smile on his face when he said that, and I thought that was so funny because he was like, yep, this is the part where I'm gonna ruin your entire life and make sure that the internet knows, or these all the Americans know that like you know and then he just like went ahead and did it. And then I started realizing that it actually gets worse from that point forward because like Serena Williams is there, like sea walking, which I was like, okay, right? Because if you don't know, Serena Williams and Drake were dating on and off from like 2011 to like 2015. And then, oh, I don't remember the song, but it was a Drake song. And basically, Serena got married, I would say, after that part happened. Um, but basically there's like a bar where Drake is like, oh, by the way, Serena, your husband's a groupie, and like this is Serena's husband. So I'm under the impression Serena C walking at the Super Bowl halftime show was a direct like, haha, look at me, also like showing how much I hate you because of what you've said about me, sort of thing. So like if there was like a diss reaction, it was exactly that moment. So I again, I get it. So it was, like I said, it was cool. But then what was it? There was a moment where the crowd was, like I said, quiet until they finally started playing Not Like Us. And then the crowd went like, oh my God, like he's doing it, let's go. And then they all sang the song, and then they all screamed the minor, and then it was what it was. And then he finally ended it with TV off, which I think was like the better move, because it just made sense that they would play like quiet stuff and then like hype their way up to the epic moment of him being like loud. And then TV off, him screaming mustard was like the best part. But everyone was waiting for the Not Like Us part, so I totally get that too. I will say though, credibility to SZA, because her performance of Luther and All the Stars, incredible. I liked Luther, it was cool, but like All the Stars was my favorite part of the entire show, because I that was also when the crowd went like nuts, like genuinely, like the song came on and the reaction everyone had about that song was as if they actually know that song, and they were like, oh my God, like I love this song, this is my jam, and then they played it, and then it, like I said, it was a really good moment to hear. And then they kind of segued it, and then they eventually played Not Like Us. And then again, I don't think that the people were like, oh my God, like in the same degree of like hypeness, but they knew that they were like, wow, like he did it, right? And then, like I said, they played the thing, and then after the minor part happened and they recorded it, I think everyone was kind of like, all right, cool, bye, and then the show was over. So I think realistically, people were calling this also like the worst Super Bowl in history, and like I understand you might feel that way. There's a lot of problems with this show despite the show being good, right? The problem is that like it's a skeptical or a spectacle of a moment where people were trying to like implicate a rapper again. I think people hate Drake a lot more than they love Kendrick, is my mindset to it. Like if it whoever, because here's what my thing is too, right? And this is like hypothetical, so like don't get mad at me, but I think that like let's say for example Pusha T, if he performed at the halftime show because he dissed Drake, would people actually be okay with that? You know, like if he did not like us, like I think if anybody was making hundreds of millions of views off of a diss track, no matter who the person was, that person was going to be like at the show. You know, that's what I think. But again, that's a whole different side note. So I just think that like there's just too much light putting put on Drake's name for the show. If they, again, I think what I would have really looked forward to is if Kendrick was going to find a way to basically find an alternative way to use like the allegations that he made to Drake, but like in a different light that kind of intrigued people, because I think that would have really like threw me for a loop where it's like, oh, did he make another like a freestyle about him in that regard? That would have been like mind blowing to me, very much so, because he couldn't use the p word on, and even though he got the crowd to scream it out loud, but I don't. But it was like a moment where people were like, "Huh? What'd you say?" And they were like, "Oh, nothing," and they were like, "Oh, okay." And then they go back to like dancing to the music. You know what I mean? But like, if Kendrick Lamar like literally screamed out that word live on national TV, I think people would have been pissed. So it makes sense that he would have gotten like super quiet during it too. So again, it makes sense to me. Uh, so I think that people are gonna. I mean, I'm expecting a lot of people to be like, "Yo, this is the worst show ever." I think it was. I don't think it was the best show, but I think that it was good. I almost would say that his other show was better. I actually liked how hype and like amazing it was, and I think also though like there was just a different. It was like a different light that Kendrick was under during the first show, because he was like actively making music where it was constantly playing. And then I feel like, because like I don't want to say that the beef is what allowed him to have this moment, but it's really difficult to not say that that's what it was, just because of like the events that transpired over the course of like the summertime, right? So for me, it'll be tough to like say that, the beef didn't like add extra flavor to the show, because if there wasn't, then like what would he have done instead, like I don't know if GNX would have been an album that would have like manifested if not for the beef and other things that kind of came into play with the show. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know, but there's that. And then last coverage, I think that's most important too, is that people were trying to understand and discuss why Kendrick Lamar of all people at the New Orleans halftime show making any sense. I think the other reason why a lot of people were quiet during the performance was because it was him and not Lil Wayne. That's what because a lot of people are also online just complaining that like Lil Wayne should have been the person on that show, and like it was insane that they stole the show. I think at first he was like, "Oh, I don't care," but then I think he got upset, and then eventually he was like, "Yeah, like it is what it is." Because even in his album, he kind of like he doesn't like diss Lil Wayne like per se, but he does say like, "Hey, like I'm sorry I let you down," which is kind of like, oh well, I mean, whatever. So, do I think Lil Wayne would have put on a better show? I actually don't know, but I think that it would have been more iconic because it was like him at his own city and like doing that. But I don't think I've even heard Lil Wayne's music in like a while. So I wasn't sure if he was even. I know that he's working on new music because he made an announcement for Carter 6, but I don't think that he like like if I go look up like what most recent Lil Wayne track he made like in the past year, I genuinely have no idea. However, I don't think that would have taken away the credibility of like his career since then, right? And of course, I think that if the stadium got dark and all you saw was like a light flicker and you heard the sound, I think the crowd would have went nuts over that, especially if they knew that it was him. If they didn't know it was him, then I think that would have made it even more like insane. But again, I think that Wayne not being the head of the show just kind of I think that like rubbed a bad taste in people's mouths that it was Dot over not Wayne. So I don't know. I would have, but then I also I try and think lyrically about like what songs would Little Wayne play, and like I genuinely would have no idea. So I mean, it's cool though. The show's over. He did good. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed other shows, but it was good. So yeah. I think all in all though, hopefully this like comes to a close because I'm kind of tired of hearing the beef. Genuinely, I keep on everywhere I go. It's really bad. I try to like change the algorithm on my account, and it's constantly people arguing back and forth about how Drake or Kendrick is the GOAT. And I still have my horrendous take about the beef overall. Uh, and to give you like a TLDR, I think that they both lose. I think they both lost the beef basically, and for reasons that just kind of make sense. Right. So there's that, but again, it's a whole different conversation. So the show overall was good. I enjoyed it when the songs came up. SZA stole the show in my personal mindset, but like it was all about Kendrick, so like it was what it was. But yeah, like I said, cool show. Game was also like lame though. Like I said, I wish that the game was like much more like oh my god, like epic. Because I think that people have been like hype over it. But there you go, halftime show.